Coming to you from Chicago, this is GovLove, a podcast about local government. GovLove is produced by ELGL, the Engaging Local Government Leaders Network. We engage the brightest minds in local government. I'm Dan Bolin, a local government attorney and partner at the Ansel Glink Law Firm in Chicago. Today I'm joined by Caitlin Clark. Caitlin is a planning specialist working for the City of Scottsdale, Arizona. You might recognize her as the other Caitlin Clark from a recent commercial for Xfinity. Engineer Rick, roll it.
Not all Caitlin Clarks are the same.
Caitlin Clark, city planner.
Just like not all internet providers are the same. Don't settle. Get real deal speed, reliability, and power with Xfinity.
She shoots from here?
That's kind of my thing.
Get the real deal with Xfinity Internet today and get fast speeds and a reliable connection to all your devices in the home, even when everyone is online.
Please welcome to GovLove, the real deal, Caitlin Clark. Caitlin, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Today, we want to talk to you about your work as a planning specialist and, of course, your experience filming this commercial. But first, let's get started with our signature lightning round. Maybe you could tell us a bit about your career path. Let's start with where the day you were born. Where were you born?
I was born in Phoenix, Arizona, and I haven't strayed too far. I'm now in Scottsdale, Arizona, so I live about 10 miles from my childhood home. So I definitely haven't moved very far. But as far as my career goes, I kind of have an interesting career path. I started out in education working with the University of Phoenix. And then I ventured over to Yelp, where I technically worked in tech. I took some time off for some health and well-being. And then I ventured on over to the City of Scottsdale just in November of 2023. So I am very, very new to the public sector and working with the city. But right now I'm a planning specialist with the City of Scottsdale. And it is what I'd like to say the best way to enter into city planning, at least for Scottsdale. My degree is in business, so it is not in planning. But I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to start with Scottsdale, and a lot of my background is relevant as far as I, kind of worked in the admin side, and that's what a lot of my role is right now. We see the intake of plans and proposals from the very beginning and carry it all the way to the end. So it's very interesting and kind of an exciting position to start with.
Oh, that's an interesting career path, interesting life story. What along the way did you play any basketball growing up? What kind of foreshadowing is in your background that might have brought you here today?
So I don't know, Dan, if you saw the commercial, I have not played a sport in my life. No, I played t-ball,
Okay.
when I was about 5 years old. So I don't know if that counts. And then a little bit of indoor soccer
Sure.
in my early 20s. I had a buddy of mine needed an extra set of legs. So I was there playing defense. Whether that hurt or helped the team, we don't know. But no, as far as sports go, I have never been athletic. So maybe I was the perfect candidate for the commercial. But I did, growing up, instead of sports, I kind of dabbled in theater a little bit. And then, from about 2017 until 2021, I was fairly active in my local improv theater. So that helped, I believe, play a helping hand in maybe getting the commercial gig.
Okay.
And So hopefully that helps. I kind of did it for fun, but maybe it'll lead somewhere. Who knows?
I got you on GovLove, so I think you've really made it. I love that. My wife is a graduate from IO in Chicago, and I'm going to see Dinosaur Improv, the Paul Scheer and Carl Tart and a bunch of other great improv people coming to town in a couple weeks. So that's very exciting, and we love going to LA from time to time and going to UCB and stuff like that, and so it's that's so much fun. How'd you get into improv?
Well, first of all, I'm very excited for you to go see some of that. I mean, especially Chicago. That's such a great improv city. So is LA.
For sure.
Yeah, what got me into that? I've always enjoyed comedy, of course, and performing. I had a coworker at the time who started getting into improv, and he kept asking me, he's like, just come to a class, just drop in, check it out. You might really like it. And so I'm so glad I did. I fell in love with it instantly. And, I kind of dabbled in stand-up comedy once or twice and was successful in that. So I don't know if I want to do it again. And, I think I'll go out with a bang. People laughed. I think that was the goal, whether it was with me or at me. I don't know. That's okay. But, improv is really fun, and it kind of helped me get out of my shell and help with a lot of, even just basic conversations with coworkers or in social situations. It's helped me kind of steer conversations, I'd say.
For the listener, she is doing excellent object work. There's an invisible cup of coffee. You can't see it, but I'm seeing it. It's very realistic. And I can't think of a better training for public meetings than improv and maybe a little bit of stand-up comedy too. So you're ready to go. But I think that's great. I think that's the end of our lightning round. You have a perfect score. So I think it's time to dig into the heart of our interview, the heart for our listeners. You've done many media appearances about this ad. I think this might be the media appearance that will actually focus most on your government career and what our audience is most interested in. But so tell me more about what brought you to the city of Scottsdale.
Oh, sure. It was a long road, but I think, I'd taken some time off. I had some health issues. I finally got back on my feet, and 2020 happened. So we all kind of know how, everyone kind of had, maybe, at least for me, I had a little bit of a reckoning with a little bit of an existential crisis where I'm like, well, what does it mean? How can I go into a new career and feel like I'm making a difference of any kind? And I, kind of was interested in maybe doing education, but ultimately decided it wasn't the best choice for me. And I think without really understanding or knowing it, subconsciously, I've always been interested in city planning and what all that entails. And every time I walk out into my neighborhood or go to my local grocery store, everything that led from leaving my door to getting there involves city planning. And I was fortunate enough to have a friend who works in city planning at City of Scottsdale, so I would constantly pick his brain because I am a resident of Scottsdale, and I'd always want to know what's going on and why are they doing this and why aren't they doing this? And, I probably annoyed him enough. He said, why don't you come, there's this position that's open for a planning specialist. You might really be interested in this, So I was very fortunate enough, and I read the job description, and I aligned with a lot of my previous jobs and everything. And I really felt like this would be a career path I could really go down and stay with for a long period of time. So, I was fortunate enough to apply and get an interview. And I don't know if I was the first choice, but they did hire me. So I got my foot in the door there. Because of my private sector experience, that's always something that I always felt like maybe going into public wouldn't be the best because I don't really have any experience, but I feel like this position in particular is wonderful because I'm seeing everything from the very beginning in its entire journey towards the end. And I'm kind of coming up to my 6th month here at the City of Scottsdale. And every single day I learn something new. And I'm kind of in this position too, where right now I don't know what I don't know. And that's kind of equally exciting as it is a little scary. So I'm excited to see where it takes me and hopefully go down the path of, continuing my education and hopefully sticking with City of Scottsdale and seeing where that takes me.
That's interesting. For me, my practice is mostly local governments, of course, but I do have private sector clients too. It's interesting for me anyway. In my practice, how like the public sector experience informs my work for my private sector clients, and the private sector clients, that informs my public sector work too. Having the understanding of the different perspectives. How does your background coming up through the private sector inform your work today?
Oh, that's a great question. So I had mentioned earlier my degree is in business, and I always kind of look at everything with a scope of business in mind. So when we are, dealing with developers, for example, I do understand their perspective because I understand the business mindset. That doesn't mean we can always say yes to everything that they want to do, of course. We have to stick to our guidelines and zoning and all of those matters. But I think that helps me with my experience, is in particular at Yelp. There were a lot of small business owners that we would constantly be in contact with. And from there, I would say having kind of their understanding and mindset in mind too, when say there's another small business owner who wants to extend their business and maybe they can't do that because they don't have the proper setbacks or land use or whatever the situation may be. I think I always have that mindset in my head that, I'm trying to understand and put myself in their shoes, even though, and explain it in a way where they might understand, we're not just saying no or yes because we want to. These are the reasons and why we have to adhere to them. So I think that's helpful. That's a long-winded answer for that.
No, that's an excellent answer. And a follow-up, based on your experience at Yelp, do you have any advice about where I should go to dinner tonight?
I can't remember what the name is, but I heard there was a place that is closed the doors immediately in the Chicago area that everyone's very upset about. You're probably familiar with that. So I know you can't go there. Mm-hmm. I have a friend who lives in Chicago who's really upset. I can't remember what it was called, but dinner tonight. The only place I know in Chicago, is fictional, and that would be the restaurant that the Bear is in. So anything that would involve some kind of, have you seen the show The Bear?
Yeah, I'm very, very familiar. My wife's office is across the street. So she watches the show get filmed and sends me pictures about what's going on. And it's, very, very, very intense. It is a real, beef shop. That they dress into a fancy restaurant for the show. Spoilers for The Bear. Yeah, very, very good tip, good advice. Yeah, maybe we should go there if it's not shut down for filming.
I know, maybe not. I don't know. Or I would suggest any place if you will look on Yelp, say you're in the mood for whatever it may be, whatever type
Mhm.
of you might want tonight, always go for something with 4.5 stars. Don't ever trust anything
Mm.
with 5 stars. In my
Oh,
experience,
yeah, and you
because
got to hit that. There's got to be a minimum number of reviews, right? A critical mass. No, this
exactly,
is
yeah.
this is important advice.
Oh,
But but now we're making everybody hungry. But I need to ask you about about your role at the city. What do you do? What kinds of day-to-day work are you doing there? Tell me more about your role as a planning specialist.
sure. So I would say the day to day, we are primarily it's an administrative role, so we're intaking a lot of application submittals for projects around the city, and we're reviewing them, making sure we have any information we need before we pass them on to the planner that it's assigned to. We also help facilitate phone calls and emails from the public. And right now, I am working primarily with the Historic Preservation Commission, where I help facilitate those meetings and make sure that the agendas are presented on time and are published on time, and making sure the meeting minutes are adhered to, the public participation and everything of that matter. So I would say primarily we help support boards and commissions in my position, and the day-to-day intake of applications and the public's questions and comments that they may have regarding city projects would be pretty much it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Did you go to a lot of public meetings before you stepped into this role? And what's it been like covering a lot of Historic Preservation Commission meetings?
I had not been to one public meeting before this role, so I have no idea what to expect. I did read a lot about it prior to applying for the job. Tried to understand and watched a lot of videos
Sure.
on the Scottsdale website. But no, I think the first public meeting I did attend was for the Planning Commission, where I was shadowing a fellow colleague and kind of understanding what they do. And I think it got kind of heated, so it was very interesting. There's kind of a little bit of a drama. There was a lot of public comments, and then the applicant comments, and of course the board's comments or the commission's comments. So I don't know. It's very interesting. There's all kinds of aspects that are different each and every time. The Historic Preservation Commission doesn't often get a lot of public participation.
Yeah.
Not that it hasn't in the past. So that's more of a discussion and decision-making commission, I would say, which is always interesting to hear what a lot of the members have to say. It's a good experience, yeah.
Oh, very, very interesting. So, what kind of what are some of your current projects for the city of Scottsdale?
Sure. So right now, I would say some of the current projects would be mainly that there is a large initiative for the Green Building Program, which is the first in the state. I think City of Scottsdale adopted it in 2023, and it's ongoing. But it is the first program in the state that adheres to the IGCC, which is the International Green Construction Code. So any new buildings that are built in Scottsdale have to adhere to those codes. And I think that a lot of the current projects are, or at least the future projects, should all be a little bit more green tilted, making sure that anything that is newly built should be safe for the environment is essentially what the goal is. So that's something that I am excited about. And other projects are mainly, I would say, at least on my end, are process improvements for public visibility and making sure that everything that we're working on can be visible to the public, which is the public's right. So That's probably a major current project that we're working on, but I'm also still in I would like to say infant stage here in my role.
Yeah.
So I'm not making any major decisions, of course, not that most planners do. They can either say yes or no. That's pretty much it. They have to adhere to everything. So I would say
Oh,
that's pretty much it. Yeah.
all day I give advice, and none of my clients actually have to take it. They can do with it what they will. So
Yeah.
I'm used to that experience. But so what advice do you have for folks like you transitioning to a local government role from like the private sector?
Okay. Oh, that's a great question. I would say to keep an open mind and be willing to learn as much as possible. A lot of um, private sector jobs, at least in my experience, you feel like you can make a lot of change without really having to go through too many hoops. And in the public sector, there's rules and regulations set forth for a reason. And I think it's important to just keep an open mind and understand that those rules are set forth there, for a reason. And that it can seem very scary transitioning from private to public. But I've honestly never been less stress-free. I'm saying this to in my first 6 months. So talk to me a year from now. I may have a different answer, but I was always really stressed in the private sector for whatever reason. There's often, so much money involved, whereas that's, not true in the public. But I will say right now, I think it's the best. It's a double-edged sword, though, right? So there's good and bad for each. But I will say I really just not as stressed out as I was in the private sector. So I would say come on in and keep an open mind, I guess, is essentially what I'm trying to say.
Well, maybe you could come to some of the public meetings I attend, and maybe you'll feel differently. But not all my clients are well behaved. I'm talking about other meetings. But anyways, the no, and especially planning. Like I hear planners tell me that, like, oh, there's never any like planning emergencies. It's not like we're in the police department. Like there's we're like I like the land use. I like the planning stuff. All the whole job is making the world a better place. It's so sweet. It's I really enjoy it. So I'm glad to hear you're enjoying the work too. But
Yes, no, thank you.
let's talk about your side hustle. When did you first hear there was a basketball player named Caitlin Clark? Were you following this basketball player that happened to share a name with you?
Oh, okay, sure. So I first heard of Caitlin Clark probably 2 or 3 years ago from my Aunt Nancy in North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Aunt Nancy. She sent me a Facebook message, and it was a little video clip of Caitlin Clark doing one of her famous long shots, right?
Yeah.
And she said, "It looks like you had a growth spurt, haha." Because for reference, I am 5'2.5", so I am very short. I'm the shortest person probably in all of my extended family, and so that was when I was first introduced to her. She's like, "Oh, she even sells it exactly like you. That's really cool." So I was a little intrigued, and then it seemed. I think there's a term for it. I can't think of it right now, where once you see something, now you see it all the time. And I kept seeing her all of the time, like everywhere. Everything was geared towards her. So it was infiltrated with information, and I loved it. So, I kind of was casually watching her. And then my father-in-law, Gary, he is someone who would never have watched women's basketball or had interest.
Mm.
He kept giving me updates. He's like, did you hear what she did this time? And did you see this? You got to check this out. You really got to watch her. So that was exciting. But yeah, I knew of her prior to being contacted for this. I was casually watching her and excited to see her growth.
And rooting for your someone
Exactly.
you share a name with, of course.
Yes.
Now, so when was the first time you heard from Xfinity about this opportunity?
Sure. So I was contacted on March 9th. I believe it was Saturday. I sat down first thing in the morning with my first cup of coffee, and my husband and I were trying to talk about what our plan was for the weekend because we had a lot we needed to take care of. And I happened to check my phone, and I don't know if everyone feels frustrated by this, but I always have notifications from LinkedIn. And of course, I'm not really looking for a job at this point. So I go in, I want to update my notifications, but I do see I have a message. And the headline read something along the lines of Caitlin Clark Xfinity commercial in all caps. So I was very intrigued, but also skeptical.
Right.
And so I clicked on it and I read through it, and essentially it was saying, that we are real people. This is not fake. This is not a scam. In all caps, of course.
It's really convincing
but I was
when
intrigued.
you have to say that.
Of course. So, of course, obviously, I'm like, well, this clearly seems like a scam. So, but I am intrigued. I'm going to read more. And the message read that, we would like to create this commercial where there's a real life Caitlin Clark and then the basketball player. And we kind of want to see why just because something's called the same thing doesn't mean it will offer the same service. And they fortunately did have a similar commercial for the Super Bowl with Christian McCaffrey, which they linked, and then they linked a lot of their credentials for the people working on the project. So I just responded, I spoke with my husband. I'm like, this seems like maybe it could be legit. What's the worst that could happen if I just said, please tell me more? And he's like, that's fair. Yeah, just ask, because that's a wild thing to be contacted about. So,
right.
I said, hello, yes, I would like to learn more. And then one thing led to another. We exchanged emails and spoke back and forth. And then that very day, they asked for an informal audition tape, essentially, answering, a series of questions. For example, do you play basketball? What is your career? What is your role? Have you ever played basketball? Do you like basketball?
Right.
All of these things. I'm like, no. And, I do like basketball. Can I play it? No, absolutely not. So, maybe that was perfect for them. And then
Right.
I didn't hear anything that day. Then the following Sunday, I was, I followed up with them and asked, do you have an update? And they're like, oh, you've been shortlisted. And then about an hour later, I spoke with the director on the phone and answered some of his questions. And then he answered some of mine. And then I did casually mention, I've done improv and I've done a little bit of theater growing up, mainly just to help them understand that if they were to pick me, I could take direction and I could think on my feet, hopefully. At least that's what my mindset was at the time. And then about an hour after that, they were like, hey, we would love to have you come in. Are you free this Tuesday, March 12th, to film in LA? And I was like, oh, okay. I think I can make this work. Why not? Let's do it.
Sure.
And it ended up being real, but there was a little bit of skepticism.
You're right. You still at this point didn't believe it was real.
I know. I think it was difficult to get excited because I'm like, well, I don't know what the catch is. The worst that could happen is that I'm getting like punked or something, like, oh well. And I think that they were glad that I was also a real person and showed up. And the director and the producer were constantly in contact. Hey, let us know when you get to the airport. Let us know when you're on your way, and all these things. I'm like, no, I'm a real person. I will show up. Don't worry.
Yeah, maybe they felt the same thing about you. Whether
That's
you
what I
were
was
real.
thinking. We both were so very relieved when we were all in the same place, and it turned out to be a legitimate commercial.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
that's exciting. So what happened when you got to LA?
Yeah, so we filmed early in the morning, and I did not get a chance to film with Caitlin Clark, basketball star. She was very busy preparing for March Madness,
Right.
so that's understandable. And maybe that was a better situation for all of us because I thought I was going to be calm going into it, but of course I was very nervous, and
Right.
I think filming the commercial, there's this entire crew of, gosh, maybe 20, 25 people, all relying on me to show up and perform and do as few takes as possible.
Right.
So having that pressure was, something I have never quite experienced before. Theater's a little bit different where you have a whole crew and maybe the spotlight's on you for a short period of time, but there's also an entire set of people, at least in my experience. That's what it was like. This was a very different experience. But everyone was very kind and very helpful and walked me through and kind of explained everything. And the director was very helpful. He had me do, many different takes of, please go high, say it at the most excited, say this at, a monotone, or, say it really, really angry, or kind of different areas like that. So that was interesting. But I think the improv experience did help.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Nice. Yeah.
So what was it like filming the ad? How long did it take? Was it a long day?
Sure. So I think, it wasn't too long. I had to be there at 6:30. We started filming at 8:30 and we wrapped by about 3:15. They kept saying, like, thank you for hitting your lines as best you can, because, someone had said, sometimes we have athletes that were trying to get them just to say a sentence, and they, of course, don't have the experience acting or saying things, with direction. And so they said sometimes it would take just hours to get one line. So they were, I think, relieved that I could do that. At least that's what they said. So I don't know. They ended up only using about one line, but it all worked out, right?
Yeah.
They kept asking me for city planning jokes, and of course I blanked. I furiously texted my group chat, my husband, and my friend who works in city planning. We're like, what are some city planning jokes? And some of them were so bad. It's like, I want to seem cool. Yeah.
Do you remember one?
Yes. Okay. I thought this was pretty funny, and I think they laughed as well. The crew did, which it didn't end up getting used, and that's okay. But I think one of them was me attempting to throw, one of her long shots, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the joke was, it looks like you need a permit to shoot from here or something, Of course it was like that, but which is so not funny that it's funny because, right, like it's so silly.
Right.
But I know. The crew kept asking, okay, what are some city planning jokes? And I was like, maybe if I had more experience, I'm sure I'd have a lot more material to work with here.
I think it was based on the Caitlin Clark basketball I watched. I think that one was funny because it's true. Like
Yeah.
It's shooting from another jurisdiction. But in
Exactly,
any case,
yeah.
That's pretty cool. Hey, Rick, are you awake? I think we'd like to roll the commercial again, and then maybe talk about some of our favorite moments from it. Rick?
Not all Caitlin Clarks are the same.
Caitlin Clark, city planner.
Just like not all internet providers are the same. Don't settle. Get real deal speed, reliability, and power with Xfinity.
She shoots from here?
That's kind of my thing.
Get the real deal with Xfinity Internet today and get fast speeds and a reliable connection to all your devices in the home, even when everyone is online.
Very, very cool. So what are your favorite? Can you describe the ad? What are some of your favorite moments from the ad while you go through it?
Sure. I would say, I think it starts off with me attempting to dribble in between cones. That was probably where I realized I have absolutely no athletic ability. It was pretty sad. That took many takes, and I don't think maybe that was my best one. I'm not really sure. But I am quite short, and I like to think because maybe my legs aren't that long, maybe that's why I was so bad at that. I think it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the commercial. So I'm glad they open with that, where it's like, wow, this person looks like maybe they would have the most basic skills. No, they don't. They really are so horrible. And then I think another one, I'm trying to do some, warm-ups on this little ladder, which, I mean, of course they, the direction was, okay, do it your best, and then maybe don't try your best. And of course, when all eyes are on you, it's like, if you've ever had someone over your shoulder while you're typing, I don't know if you experience this, but I do. All of a sudden, I don't know how to use my computer, and I'm misspelling words or something. It's like this pressure where someone's watching you. I at least feel that way when someone's over my shoulder, but all these eyes were on me, and they're like, okay, do it your absolute best. And in my head, I'm like, okay, that's what I'm doing. And of course, I'm doing so horrible. It's really interesting, maybe because I'm not athletic, I don't know, and just trying to go through these things. And then the next little blip of me, I'm trying to spin a basketball on one finger, which I obviously can't do. So, I don't know if you saw the commercial. It's very difficult, and everyone I feel like has lied to me my entire life. They made it look so easy. It's not easy. Though I'm sure everyone, obviously, who can do that has practiced for years and years. So there's that.
So maybe you'll work on it.
Maybe I'll work on it. It has inspired me to try to attempt to have any skills, particularly in basketball. But it's such a fun sport. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that. But, I think the commercial's pretty interesting. Then you see me fumble at all of these things that I did try really hard at. I will say I did try. And then you see Caitlin Clark, just killing it. And she's, she spins a basketball on her finger as if it's, so easy.
Right.
Maybe it is to her. It's not to me.
Sure.
And then she's going through all these things. And I think it kind of just shows how exactly this was initially pitched to me. Just because something's called the same thing doesn't mean they can offer the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That couldn't be more true. But I think the running joke is that, when we were filming the commercial, we made this joke, and I think there's a lot of comments online about it'd be really funny to see the reverse commercial where
Right.
Caitlin Clark attempts city planning.
I think so.
I don't know what that would entail, but I think that would be funny.
She has to cover the Historic Preservation Commission. It's only fair.
There we go. Yes. and where everyone is talking over each other, like, oh no, we have to adhere to Robert's rules, or
Thank you. Thank you. And
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. So what kind of feedback did you hear from your friends, family, coworkers? What are they all saying around the office about this? I'm sure the response was overwhelming.
Yes, I think particular for friends and family, they thought it was really like fun, and were shocked that I said yes to doing it for some reason. Even though I think my close friends knew, like, okay, yeah, this is something you were made for. You are so unathletic. They couldn't have picked a better person.
Yeah.
So no acting skills were required in that sense. But as far as my coworkers go, because I only did just first start in November, I still was pretty new, and I think it helped open up a lot of conversation and helped me bond with coworkers a little bit at a faster speed than I would have maybe naturally. But when I was first approached for this commercial, that following Monday, I went into work to make sure there wouldn't be any conflict of interest. If there's any forms I needed to sign, my manager was out that day, so I spoke with my director at work, and I think he thought I was pulling a prank on him at first. He's like, "What are you talking about? You're going to be in this commercial? This sounds made up." Of course, I'm like, "I'm pretty sure this is real, but can you please sign this form?"
Yeah.
And is this okay to do? And so he was really excited, and he ended up, Tim Curtis, my director, he ended up, telling some other departments, where I think they all met for a meeting. And then I was contacted by the public affairs department, and they're like, "Oh, we'd love to interview you about this commercial whenever it airs." And so that happened. So I think it kind of spread like wildfire. Well, maybe that's not a very good term. Or it spread very quickly throughout the city, and I think it was well received, and everyone had a good laugh. Even if it was at my expense, that's okay. As long as I can make someone laugh, that's all that matters. So I think it was well received with the city.
I think so. I think it was. I was checking out your Twitter, and I think it might be your husband. Like, that made a thread of all your media appearances, which I thought was very neat. And
Yes.
so I think your friends and family must be very proud of you, and they should be. So that was pretty cool. But,
Yes. Yeah, that was my husband. He did an entire thread. He's very proud. He jokes he's my agent in training. So that's helpful, because it's hard to keep track. Actually, there was quite a few.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice thread. He deserves 10% or whatever agents get these days. So, it's very, very cool experience. Very, very cool. To see the city chat you up about it too. I am an Xfinity customer. I do have questions about my service. I will be following up with you later. But what's next for you? More commercials? What projects are you looking forward to at the city?
Oh, sure. So if asked, yes, I would definitely do another commercial with Xfinity. I had a very nice experience with them. I can't speak to their service. We don't get it here in Arizona, so I can't help you with that. But as far as how they treat people in their commercials, very well, very well. I would definitely do another commercial if asked. I hope that's the case. If not, that's also okay. I think this has also triggered me to get back into improv and local theater just for fun.
Cool.
There's local theater that does adult puppet shows, which sounds really strange. They just did the Princess Bride. We just saw that a couple weeks ago. It was excellent. So maybe doing something like along those lines as well. But as far as work goes, I'm interested in just continuing to learn, and ideally continue my education. I've always wanted to at least get a master's degree. Arizona State University has a very good local or urban planning program that I'm interested in. And then as far as
Yeah.
projects go, I think continuing to help facilitate maybe more boards and commissions would be maybe my next step. I think I really like that element and seeing a lot of projects all the way through.
Yeah, I like a lot of the planners I know are great at facilitating, like managing difficult conversations, managing public meetings, keeping everybody on the same page, working together towards the same goal. And that sounds like a part of the job you really like.
Yes, definitely. And I'm looking forward to doing quite a bit more.
And I think the WNBA draft just happened. The WNBA season is getting started. There may be more future commercial opportunities. But you following looking forward to the WNBA season more? Going to continue following your your friend Caitlin's career?
Yes, my girl Caitlin. Yes, I definitely. I've always been a casual basketball fan of any sport. That's always been the one that I would actually watch with my husband. We are Suns fans, for better or for worse, Phoenix Suns fans. But we also I'm very interested in watching Caitlin in particular in the WNBA, but also the Phoenix Mercury. They are coming. I believe the Indiana Fever is coming to play the Phoenix Mercury in June. We already got tickets, and so I'm excited to see that matchup. That'll be really exciting.
Well, very cool. Let's see. So any well, I do have to brag on. I'm a Fighting Illini Illinois Fighting Illini football season ticket holder. Big Fighting Illini basketball fan. Do have to brag on the Fighting Illini women's team won the WBIT championship, the first ever. It's like the WNIT, or what was the WNIT. Now it's the WBIT. It's a postseason championship. So I'm excited for them. And
Wow!
and so that I got to brag on them a bit. It's never been a more exciting time for the sport, and really exploded this year with more people watching than ever, and it helped you become the most famous city planner in America. So that's I'm really thrilled to talk with you today. Any final thoughts? Any words of advice for people that want to get into city planning like you did?
Sure. I would say if you find yourself walking out of your home and either feeling excitement or frustration about how you can get from your front door to wherever you need to go, I would say get into city planning. And even though there's only so much change you can enable, you can at least hope that you can enforce things that should be enforced and all of that element. But I do feel that more people are probably interested in it than they realize. At least in my experience, that's true. And I would say go ahead and maybe pick up, maybe read some Jane Jacobs or something. I'm told it particular to that. I don't know. And see if this is something you want to get into. I would say yes. I think it's a very unique and interesting career path, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And I hope that it's exciting for other people. So if you're interested in getting into it, I would say go ahead and try. Like if your local area has even an entry-level position, if you're in the position to do that, go ahead and start from the very beginning and work your way up. It's not always going to be easy or fun, but it'll be worth it in the long run, I believe.
Well, very, very well said. We're excited for you. We do have one last question. If you could be the GovLove DJ, what song would you pick as our exit music for this episode?
This episode? Oh, I like this question. I gotta say Desperado by Rihanna. I love that song. I don't know if you heard it. It's such a good song. I love the intro. I think it's an ode to women making moves, and I'd like to think that that's what I'm trying to do. Obviously Caitlin Clark, basketball star, is making big moves. I'll let her do that.
A nice thread, a nice theme, nice exit music. We'll add it in post. But thank you very much. That ends our episode for today. Appreciate you coming on and talking with me. GovLove is produced by a rotating cast of ELGL volunteers. ELGL is the Engaging Local Government Leaders Network. You can reach us at elgl.org/govlove or on LinkedIn at GovLove Podcast. Maybe you'll get a notification from someone asking you to star in a commercial. You never know. Jump on LinkedIn. One of those notifications might be, worth something. Check it out. But in the meantime, thanks everyone for listening. This has been GovLove, a podcast about local government. Bye.